Okay. Welcome back. My name is Hardeep. I'm a Canadian Gap Ambassador. You should know that by now. And today's third video is gonna be focused on what things I learned in my gap year. So, lots of failures and lots of successes that I already discussed in my video. These are the things intellectual things that I really learned throughout my gap year. No failure as such, just things that I learned in my alone time. So, first one goes off. Discipline is not lame. Okay, so I think all my life had this definition of discipline being this military style thing. It's just lame or whatever like that. I loved being organized, but I was discipline is just weird, kind of that thing. So I think in my gap year, what I learned was that discipline is actually the way that you get efficient, prioritize goals that are important to you by managing your time wisely. So that's one major thing I learned by keeping my bias aside for oneself, the traditional discipline that I thought of, and really learning self-discipline myself. So that's one. Second, this kind of self-explanatory, but I've learned that giving yourself alone time is super important. And I think this is because I'm an extrovert, so I'm always surrounded by people all the time, and I feel like people influence me a lot, whoever it is. I try to get the good habits from everyone doing that thing, but in its own way, I feel when I do this, when I'm around people all the time, I just don't get to reflect on myself alone. And I think that's one thing that I got a lot of in my gap year, and I've kind of made that into my schedule now. Even when I go out now, I'm around people all the time. I try to give myself 3-4 hours of alone time every day just to reflect on myself, just to be around myself. I think that's something it makes me get a better direction of what I'm doing and what I want to do and why I'm doing things. So I think that's one very simple yet important thing that I have learned, because further going in adulthood, we're gonna all spend a lot of time alone. I think it's one thing to just get a bit used to and comfortable, because it's pretty awesome. Third thing I've learned is family is super important. Now I kind of live away from family. My family lives back home in India, so it might be different for a lot of you guys, but at the same time I feel even when we live in the same home as with our family for a long time, it gets too normal. And I think it's good to acknowledge once in a while that family is just super important. It's important to share things with them, important to just be open with them once in a while. And especially now that we're growing up, I feel our parents are adapting to that too, or at least they should. And these people are pretty much the people who give us the values that we live with, and it's important to just be around them. And that's what I learned in my trip from India this year, which was just phenomenal, because I got to spend time with my grandma, who I talk to every week on Sundays. And now after meeting her after 3 years, it was just an amazing experience. The favorite part of my a month-long trip. The travels and all were fun, but this was my most fun part. So family, superior. You need to prioritize it in some way or another. Fourth thing, everyone takes their own time to accomplish goals, and I think that's something that it's so important to know in your gap year. And it's so important to just acknowledge that fact and just live with it in a way, because take it in. I know someone who graduated from high school at the age of 16. I know someone who bought their first house at the age of 18. I know someone who got their first internship at the age of 28. And I know Barbara Oakley, she's an author, and she started learning remedial math at the age of 26, then got her bachelor's, master's, and PhD in engineering, and now she's a professor of electrical engineering in the States. And in her 30s, she got her PhD, and now she's a professor. And it's just got to say that everyone does their things at their own time, right? Everyone's got their own struggles, own problems, or own situations in life, and everyone's at different timelines, so you don't need to match timelines. And this is so important, because this gap year is the core part of it, because you don't have to match timelines. I took an extra year, And I'm so happy I did, because it set me up for so much good reflection, so much better of a program I'm going into for university than like the last program taught. Like it was a whole other subject. Like before I was going in film production, and now I'm going in business, and it's so good that I got this time to explore, because I didn't before. And so this is why I think it's so important just to get rid of this mindset of like everyone's got to have like a home, or like get married at this point in life, or get a degree by this time. Like screw all that. Like you're on your own, and you figure out your own thing by your own timeline, because face it, everyone comes from different privilege, different life situations. Fifth one, and now this could be a bit controversial, but I've learned that it's very, if you have internet access, and if you're watching to this video, I'm pretty sure that you're privileged to a point in life that you can do a lot of things. And all it comes down to is this, mindset in a lot of ways. Changing your mindset and just making our life better ourselves. Because the thing is, everyone faces a lot of problems, right? Like I got problems, you got problems, everyone has their own problems in life. And the thing is that when we start feeling sorry for ourselves because of our problems, things just don't go well. The whole point is to acknowledge the privilege we have, to acknowledge so much things we're grateful for and what we have. Just use that as a leverage to push through life. And I think in a lot of ways I have done that, and it's worked so well, because when you start focusing on things that that are negative in negative situations, it's just a roller coaster downhill. So that's one thing I've learned to try to keep a positive mindset even in the worst case scenarios. Sixth one, and this is a very important one that I've seen a lot of people my age, and it is that don't set your self-esteem on one thing that you're so stubborn about. And I think it's important to be stubborn about things. I am stubborn about making technology ethical, for example, and I will do it no matter what. It's one goal that motivates me a lot. And I've learned that I've seen a lot of people set their self-esteem on one dream school they want to get into, for example, one university program they want to get into. And when they don't accomplish that, everything just it's like a bunch of blocks of Jenga. That one core block falls down, the whole building just collapses. Your self-esteem is just broken. And I think putting that is just very unhealthy in a way, that because you're so much more than one program getting into. And the thing is that your goal should be the one that should motivate you, and university is, I have learned that it's a resource for me to reach that goal. I'm going to Western University, and if I was going to another university, I feel like it wouldn't matter much to me, because the education everywhere is pretty much the same. We got Harvard courses on edX for free at this point in time, but the whole point is meeting the right people. And when you're really motivated towards one goal, towards one thing that you really want to do in the world, I think when you keep focusing on making that process better to reach that goal, rather than putting your self-esteem on say getting in a university, I think you meet the right people in the process. So I think that's one thing I've learned. You're so much more than the program that you're getting into, no matter what. So set goals that are higher than that. Set goals that really mean something to you, and that they're the thing that make you wake up every day. So I think that's the sixth one. I think that's the big one that I have learned the hard way, and so many people, I think, so many of my friends, I've seen them learning this the hard way too. Okay, seventh one. So I recently learned how to make pilaf, right? And I learned so on the recipe it said that you gotta put 2 cups or something in the pot, and apparently this is half a cup. This is half a cup, and 2 of this is 1 cup. I thought this was 1 cup. So that's my 7th learning, that I pretty much I thought this was 1 cup, and I put 3 of these, and I pretty much made enough rice that lasted us for 6 days. 3 people live in our household. It lasted us for 6 days, so that's one thing I've learned. Cup measurements. That's cup measurements are another thing I've learned. Very important lessons. Okay, eighth one, and this is a big one that's gotten me a lot more confident than I used to be. And I've learned that, we see these successful people and we're like, wow, like, that is so cool. Like, these people have accomplished so many things. Like, I don't know, like like someone on LinkedIn has got a NASA internship, or it's just some actor, someone who won a Nobel Prize. You're like, you wonder how they do that, or they have this inherent capability of doing these big things. And I've learned that, like, reading a few self-improvement books, that no one's really gifted in these things. Like, IQ is one thing, yes, and IQ is one thing, talent is one thing, but like, these things don't really determine what makes us succeed. What I've learned is what really makes us succeed is getting out of our comfort zone in like all aspects. Like, how do you know that the first person, like, let's say like this guy who I know got a NASA internship, how do we know that he wasn't feeling nervous for his interview? Of course he was. Everyone's feel anxious at these times, and I've learned that no one's really gifted. They have too much talent to just ace these things. The thing is that everyone's pushing out of their comfort zone a bit. Everyone's feeling a bit uncomfortable, and the thing is, this discomfort is what makes us grow. Because if we stay at the same place, if we keep in the same comfort zone, we actually get more fear than we would by stepping outside of our comfort zone, which sounds ironical, but the thing is that when you keep in your comfort zone, you get this bubble. You start staying in this bubble of like fear of like stepping on more and more. Like, the more you stay in your comfort zone, the more fearful you become of stepping outside. So that it's kind of ironical, but if you wanna push out that fear of like public speaking or driving a car or hosting that event or starting a company, like, I've learned that you just need to do it to get rid of the fear. That's the tricky part of it. And that's all my 8 learnings, and I hope with these 8 learnings of mine in my gap year helped you learn something in this video. And yeah, I will see you in my next video, and thank you very much for watching.